Technology and privilege represent two of the most influential forces in modern cybersecurity, and, when mismanaged, two of the most dangerous. Most breaches begin either at the endpoint, where attackers first gain a foothold, or through misuse of elevated privileges that grant broad system access. Annex A.8.1 and A.8.2 of ISO/IEC 27001 directly address these vulnerabilities by setting clear expectations for how user devices are secured and how privileged accounts are controlled. Together, these controls define how people and systems interact safely within a digital environment. Auditors pay close attention to both because they reveal the maturity of an organization's operational discipline, not just whether defenses exist, but whether they're applied consistently across users, locations, and devices. Annex A.8.1 covers user endpoint devices, laptops, desktops, tablets, and mobile phones that serve as the daily interface between users and the organization's data. The control applies to both corporate-issued devices and personally owned devices, BYOD, allowed under specific policy conditions. It requires that all such devices meet baseline configuration, monitoring, and usage standards that prevent them from becoming vectors for compromise. In essence, A.8.1 creates a uniform layer of defense around the organization's distributed workforce, ensuring that endpoints serve as secure gateways rather than entry points for attackers. Endpoint hardening begins with foundational protections that should be visible across the entire fleet. Full disk encryption safeguards stored data even if a device is lost or stolen, while secure boot ensures only trusted software loads during startup. Automated patching keeps systems updated against known vulnerabilities, and anti-malware definitions must refresh regularly. Disabling unused services and network ports reduces the number of ways attackers can exploit the device. Centralized configuration management, through tools like Intune, Jamf, or similar platforms, ensures uniform enforcement and immediate remediation of deviations. The philosophy is simple. Every endpoint should be secure by default and stay that way through automation. Day-to-day operational expectations build on this hardened foundation. Devices must lock automatically after short periods of inactivity, preventing opportunistic access. Only approved and licensed software should be installed to avoid introducing unvetted applications or malware. Endpoint monitoring agents should remain active at all times, feeding telemetry to a centralized logging or security information and event management SIM platform. This telemetry provides visibility into emerging threats and enables rapid incident response. By maintaining consistent operational hygiene, organizations turn each endpoint into a managed, monitored extension of the corporate perimeter. Mobile and BYOD scenarios add complexity to the endpoint control landscape. Organizations must balance flexibility with security by enforcing mobile device management, MDM, as a condition for accessing corporate data. MDM systems apply encryption, enforce password policies, and separate personal from business data using containerization. Remote wipe functionality ensures lost or stolen devices can be sanitized instantly. Clear user agreements define boundaries. Employees must understand which parts of their personal devices are subject to corporate oversight and what responsibilities they hold. This transparency preserves trust while maintaining the necessary level of control. Auditors assessing A.8.1 compliance look for verifiable evidence that endpoint security is both structured and enforced. They review configuration baselines defining approved settings, MDM or EDR policies, and records showing patch and encryption compliance. Inventories of authorized devices help ensure that no rogue hardware connects to corporate networks. Incident reports related to lost or compromised endpoints are examined to confirm that established response processes are followed. These records collectively demonstrate that the organization not only defines endpoint controls, but applies them with measurable consistency. Weak endpoint security remains one of the most exploited weaknesses in enterprise environments. Unpatched laptops have triggered widespread ransomware infections, crippling operations and costing millions in downtime. Smartphones without PINs or biometric locks have leaked corporate emails through unauthorized access. Unapproved apps downloaded by employees have created covert data exfiltration channels. Contractors using unmanaged laptops have connected to production networks without monitoring, bypassing controls entirely. These examples reveal that technical sophistication is meaningless if basic endpoint practices are ignored. Attackers always choose the path of least resistance. When implemented correctly, the benefits of strong A.8.1 controls extend well beyond compliance. A hardened, centrally managed device fleet dramatically reduces the success rate of phishing and social engineering campaigns. Malware infections decline as patching and EDR coverage improve. Endpoint telemetry allows faster detection of anomalies, providing early warnings before incidents escalate. Consistent enforcement across regions and subsidiaries simplifies audits and instills customer confidence that the organization maintains global standards of care. Ultimately, endpoint control is the front line of digital resilience, the layer that defines whether a single click becomes an infection or a contained alert. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Annex A.8.2 extends the conversation from devices to the power they can wield. Privileged access rights represent the digital equivalent of master keys, granting the ability to change configurations, access sensitive data, and even disable security mechanisms. Because of their reach, privileged accounts are among the most heavily targeted assets in cyber attacks. Annex A.8.2 governs how these elevated permissions are granted, used, monitored, and revoked to ensure that administrative power remains under strict control. It applies to system administrators, developers, support engineers, and even automated service accounts. The intent is not to restrict productivity, but to balance authority with accountability, ensuring that those who hold the keys to critical systems do so responsibly and transparently. The foundation of privilege management lies in a few timeless principles. Chief among them is the principle of least privilege, giving users only the access required to perform their specific duties and nothing more. This idea prevents accidental misuse as much as it deters malicious intent. Another is separation of duties, which divides critical tasks so that no single individual can execute high-risk actions alone. For example, one person may initiate a change while another must approve it before it takes effect. Modern organizations also move away from standing administrative access, where users hold perpetual elevated rights. Instead, they adopt just-in-time (JIT) models, granting temporary access that expires automatically once the task is complete. Above all, privilege must always map back to an identifiable person, ensuring full accountability for every action performed under elevated rights. The technical controls supporting privileged account security are as important as the principles guiding them. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, must be mandatory for any privileged session, reducing the likelihood of compromise through stolen credentials. High-risk systems should use session monitoring or recording tools that capture command histories or screen activity for forensic review. Service accounts, non-human accounts used for application or system functions, should be stored in password vaults or managed through credential brokers, ensuring passwords are rotated automatically and never shared. Automated expiration or periodic review of unused accounts eliminates unnecessary risk exposure. These measures combine to create a layered, auditable control environment around the most powerful accounts in the enterprise. Equally critical are the processes by which privileged access is granted, reviewed, and revoked. Each assignment must be documented, approved by authorized managers, and tied to a specific business justification. Access should be time-bound or project-specific, with clear expiration dates. Periodic recertification by system or application owners ensures that privileges remain relevant and proportional to job responsibilities. When employees change roles, leave the company, or transition to contractor status, their elevated access must be removed immediately. Automating these lifecycle events through identity governance tools reduces administrative burden and prevents privileges from lingering unnoticed. In the context of ISO 27001, this procedural rigor demonstrates that elevated access is not arbitrary, but traceable and defensible. Auditors reviewing A.8.2 compliance seek visible evidence that privilege management is active and disciplined. They expect to see access assignment records showing who approved each grant and why it was justified. Privileged Access Management, PAM, or vault configurations are examined to verify password rotation schedules, vault segregation, and MFA enforcement. Session logs or playback files provide proof that administrative activity is captured and reviewable. Reports from recertification cycles confirm that privileges are periodically validated. Together, these materials reveal whether the organization truly governs access or merely assumes control through policy language alone. The risks of unmanaged privileged access are among the most severe in cybersecurity. Insider abuse, whether intentional or careless, can lead to massive data exfiltration, sabotage, or compliance violations. Attackers who gain administrative credentials can disable defenses, alter logs, and move laterally through systems undetected. Dormant or shared administrative accounts create ghost keys that bypass accountability. Even well-intentioned administrators can cause outages through misconfiguration if no oversight exists. Privileged accounts amplify every mistake or exploit, making their governance a defining test of security maturity. The difference between a minor breach and a catastrophic one often lies in how privileges are structured and monitored. Examples across industries highlight the diversity of implementation. Financial firms often restrict administrative actions through PAM systems that require dual approvals for critical changes, ensuring separation of duties and audit readiness. Cloud-based SaaS providers increasingly adopt just-in-time access for production systems, issuing temporary credentials that expire automatically after maintenance windows. In manufacturing environments, operational technology (OT) systems grant elevated rights only to certified engineers, reducing the risk of industrial disruptions. Healthcare systems audit privileged database sessions, ensuring that access to patient data is justified, logged, and monitored. Each of these examples demonstrates a contextual adaptation of the same principle. Power must exist, but it must always be controlled. The connection between A.8.1 and A.8.2 is both direct and profound. Endpoints are where users interact with systems, and privileged accounts are the force multipliers that determine the scale of potential damage. A compromised laptop with ordinary access might lead to limited data exposure. A compromised laptop holding administrative credentials could enable full network takeover. Together, these controls close two of the largest attack vectors in cybersecurity: device compromise and privilege misuse. When both are implemented effectively, attackers face higher barriers at every step, from initial entry to lateral movement, reducing the probability and impact of breaches dramatically. Beyond defense, managing endpoints and privileges together also strengthens auditability and client confidence. Regulators and partners view these controls as markers of operational integrity, proof that an organization not only understands its risk surface, but actively governs it. The ability to produce evidence of encrypted devices, patched systems, and controlled admin rights signals a mature security posture. It demonstrates that technology and policy align to create a living system of control rather than isolated checkboxes. This holistic approach reassures auditors, customers, and executive stakeholders alike that the organization's most powerful tools are also its most carefully protected. Annex A.8.1 and A.8.2 ultimately embody one of the most pragmatic philosophies in modern cybersecurity: control where risk begins and where it multiplies. Endpoints define the boundary of the user's world. Privileges define the boundary of influence within it. Together, they create a balance of access and restraint, empowering productivity without sacrificing safety. These are not theoretical measures, but everyday practices visible in how devices are configured, how credentials are issued, and how users are held accountable. When applied faithfully, they transform the organization's most common vulnerabilities into its strongest demonstration of governance, discipline, and security maturity.